Hey everyone, before we dive into today's video, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you haven't already, smash the subscribe button like it's the snooze button on a Monday morning. Trust me, your future self will thank you. You'll get exclusive access to all my shenanigans, misadventures, and the occasional piece of useful content. Plus, subscribing adds 10 points to your coolness level. Scientifically proven. Not scientifically proven.
The disappearance of Keith Reinhard. Keith Reinhard was a man of many words, but the mountains of Colorado rendered him silent. A sports writer from Chicago, Keith had always dreamed of crafting a novel that would capture the essence of human perseverance. When he took a 90-day leave of absence from his job to chase this dream, he found himself drawn to the small, mysterious town of Silver Plume, Colorado. Silver Plume was a place where history lingered in the cool mountain air, where old tales whispered among the pine trees and abandoned mines. Keith rented a quaint shop in the heart of the town, a space that had recently been vacated under eerie circumstances. The previous tenant, Tom Young, had vanished into thin air almost a year earlier. His body, along with that of his dog, had been found in the nearby mountains months after his disappearance, a bullet hole in his skull suggesting a grim end. The town buzzed with speculation, but no one could explain why Tom had met such a fate. Keith found himself increasingly obsessed with Tom Young's story. The idea of a man disappearing into the wilderness, leaving behind a life, resonated with him. He began writing a novel, intertwining his own experiences with the enigma of Tom Young. As he dug deeper into the mystery, the lines between his research and his reality blurred. August 7th, 1988, dawned crisp and clear. Keith, feeling the weight of his unfinished manuscript, decided to clear his mind with a hike. He told friends at the local cafe of his plan to climb Pendleton Mountain, a rugged and challenging trek. They wished him luck, unaware it would be the last time they saw him. Keith set out with determination, his thoughts a whirlwind of plot twists and character arcs. The trail was steep, the air thin, but he pressed on, driven by the need to reach the summit. As the hours passed, clouds gathered, casting shadows over the landscape. Keith's path grew more treacherous, but he was undeterred. Back in Silver Plume, the afternoon gave way to evening, and concern began to grow. Keith had not returned. When darkness fell and he was still missing, the town mobilized. Search parties were formed, helicopters scoured the area, and dogs were brought in to track his scent. Yet despite their efforts, there was no sign of Keith Reinhard. Days turned into weeks, and the search continued. Friends and family clung to hope, but Silver Plume had seen this before. Keith had vanished just as Tom Young had, swallowed by the mountains that loomed over the town. Theories abounded. Some speculated that Keith had met with foul play, that someone wanted to keep the secrets of Tom Young hidden. Others believed he had simply fallen, lost to the wilderness. A few even whispered that he had become part of his own story, disappearing as his protagonist might, merging fact with fiction in the most tragic way. As the years passed, Keith Reinhard became another legend of Silver Plume, his disappearance an unsolved mystery. His shop stood empty, a testament to dreams unfulfilled and stories left unfinished. The mountains kept their secrets, and the wind carried the tale of a writer who walked into the wilderness and never returned. The Klein Falls State Park Axeman. In the serene beauty of Oregon's Klein Falls State Park, nestled along the Deschutes River, the summer of 1977 would be marked by a chilling tale that would haunt the local community for years to come. This is the story of the Klein Falls State Park Axeman, an incident that turned a tranquil camping trip into a nightmarish fight for survival. It was a warm evening in late June when two friends, Terry and David, both 18 years old, decided to spend the night camping at Klein Falls. The park, known for its scenic views and peaceful ambiance, was a perfect getaway for the high school graduates before they headed off to college. They set up their tent near the river, grilled dinner over a campfire, and chatted about their futures under a starry sky. Little did they know, their idyllic night was about to take a terrifying turn. As the fire died down and they prepared to sleep, an eerie silence settled over the park, broken only by the soft murmurs of the river. Sometime after midnight, they were jolted awake by a rustling noise outside their tent. Thinking it might be an animal, Terry unzipped the tent slightly to peer outside. What he saw made his blood run cold. A dark figure stood just beyond the tent holding an axe, the moonlight glinting off the blade. Before they could react, the figure attacked, slashing at the tent and striking David in the head. Terry, fueled by adrenaline and fear, managed to scramble out of the tent, pulling his injured friend with him. They ran blindly into the night, the Axeman in pursuit. The thick forest and uneven terrain worked to their advantage, allowing them to put some distance between themselves and the attacker. Bleeding and terrified, they stumbled upon a nearby road, where they flagged down a passing car. The driver, shocked by their condition, rushed them to the nearest hospital. David was in critical condition, and the doctors worked tirelessly to save his life. Terry, though shaken and injured, provided what little information he could to the authorities. The police launched an extensive search of Klein Falls State Park, but the Axeman was nowhere to be found. The campsite was a scene of chaos, with the shredded tent and bloodstains telling the story of the brutal attack. Despite their efforts, no significant clues or evidence emerged to identify the perpetrator. The incident sent shockwaves through the community. Parents forbade their children from camping, and the park, once a haven for outdoor enthusiasts, saw a sharp decline in visitors. Rumors and theories about the Axeman's identity spread like wildfire, but none led to a concrete conclusion. David, after a long recovery, was left with physical and emotional scars, while Terry struggled with survivor's guilt and nightmares. The two friends, once bound by their shared excitement for the future, now shared a traumatic bond that few could understand. Years passed, and the story of the Klein Falls State Park Axeman became a dark legend, a cautionary tale whispered around campfires. The park eventually regained some of its former tranquility, but the memory of that night lingered, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk even in the most beautiful places. Despite numerous theories and continued interest from amateur sleuths, the identity of the Axeman remains a mystery. Terry and David moved on with their lives, but the unanswered questions and the shadow of that horrific night stayed with them. The Klein Falls State Park Axeman became a ghost story, a chilling chapter in the history of a peaceful park, forever altering the lives of those involved and the community that surrounded it. The disappearance of Derek Ingebretson. In the heart of Oregon, surrounded by the dense woods of the Weinman National Forest, lies Pelican Butte, a serene destination often visited by families seeking the tranquility of nature. However, the peaceful landscape would become the setting for a heartbreaking mystery in December 1998, when 8-year-old Derek Ingebretson vanished without a trace. Derek was a bright, adventurous boy, full of energy and curiosity. The Ingebretson family had planned a festive outing to find the perfect Christmas tree, a cherished tradition that brought them closer each year. Derek, his father Robert, and his grandfather Bob set out into the snowy forest, excited for the day's adventure. The air was crisp and cold as they trudged through the snow-covered terrain, the sun casting long shadows through the trees. As they moved deeper into the woods, Derek, eager to explore, ventured slightly ahead of his father and grandfather. They could still see him, his red jacket a bright spot against the white landscape. It was mid-afternoon when they realized Derek was no longer in sight. Assuming he had wandered off to investigate something interesting, Robert called out to him. When there was no response, the urgency of the situation began to sink in. The minutes stretched into an agonizing hour as they searched frantically, their shouts echoing through the silent forest. Panic-stricken, Robert and Bob expanded their search, but Derek was nowhere to be found. They raced back to their vehicle and drove to the nearest point of communication to call for help. Within hours, search and rescue teams arrived, their flashlights piercing the growing darkness. The search effort was massive. Volunteers, professional searchers, and law enforcement scoured the area, braving freezing temperatures and challenging terrain. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging flew overhead, and tracking dogs were brought in to follow Derek's scent. Despite their relentless efforts, the search yielded few clues. Days turned into weeks and the search continued, though hope began to wane. the community rallied around the Engabatsan family, offering support and prayers. Posters of Derek's smiling face were plastered across town, a constant reminder of the little boy still lost in the wilderness. Among the few pieces of evidence found was a small trail of footprints in the snow, which led to a road before disappearing. It was unclear whether Derek had followed the road or if someone had taken him. The forest, beautiful and serene, now seemed vast and indifferent, a labyrinth that had swallowed an innocent child. The Engebretsen family was left with a haunting void. The days grew colder, and the search was eventually scaled back. Robert and Bob were consumed with guilt and grief, replaying every moment of that fateful day in their minds, wondering what they could have done differently. As the years passed, Derek's disappearance became a chilling legend in the area. Theories and rumors circulated, but none provided the answers his family so desperately sought. Some believed he had succumbed to the elements. Others feared he had been taken by someone with ill intentions. The truth remained elusive, hidden somewhere in the depths of the forest. Derek Engebretsen's story is a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the relentless uncertainty that can shroud even the most innocent moments. The Engebretsen family continued to honor Derek's memory, holding on to the hope that someday they would find closure. The disappearance of Derek Engebretsen remains one of Oregon's most enduring mysteries. The Wineman National Forest, once a place of family joy and adventure, now carries the weight of a little boy's lost footsteps, a testament to a tragedy that no one will ever forget. The Falcon Lake UFO encounter is one of Canada's most well-documented and mysterious UFO incidents. It took place on May 20, 1967, near Falcon Lake in the province of Manitoba. The central figure in the encounter was Stefan Michalak, an industrial mechanic and amateur geologist. Stefan Michalak was a hobby prospector who frequently explored the area around Falcon Lake for quartz and silver. On that fateful day, while examining a quartz vein near the lake, Michalak noticed a flock of geese suddenly take flight, seemingly startled by something. When he looked up, he saw two cigar-shaped objects glowing in the sky. One of these objects descended, landing on a flat rock about 160 feet away from him. The other object remained hovering in the air for a few moments before flying off into the distance. Curious and somewhat skeptical, Michalak approached the landed object. As he got closer, he noticed it was a disc-shaped craft, about 40 feet in diameter and made of a smooth, polished metal that resembled stainless steel. The craft emitted a humming sound and a sulfuric smell that made Michalak's nose and eyes water. He observed an open door on the side of the craft and saw a panel of lights inside, but he couldn't make out any figures or discernible details within. Gathering his courage, Michalak called out to whoever might be inside, first in English and then in Polish, Russian, and German, but he received no response. He decided to touch the craft, and as he did, he found it to be extremely hot, scorching the fingertips of the glove he was wearing. Suddenly the door shut, and the craft began to rotate counterclockwise. A grid-like pattern of holes appeared on the side, from which a blast of hot gas or air shot out, hitting Michalak in the chest and knocking him backward. His shirt and undershirt caught fire, and he suffered burns in a grid pattern on his torso. Dazed and in pain, Michalak managed to extinguish the flames and stumble back to his campsite. He felt nauseous and disoriented, but eventually found his way to a hospital in Winnipeg, where he was treated for burns and radiation sickness-like symptoms. The burns on his chest and stomach later developed into raised sores that matched the grid pattern from the craft's vent. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, and the Royal Canadian Air Force, RCF, investigated the site but found no evidence of the craft. However, they did discover traces of radiation in the area where Michalak claimed the encounter took place. Michalak's experience was met with skepticism by some and belief by others, but he maintained his account of the incident until his death in 1999. The Falcon Lake UFO encounter remains one of the most compelling and mysterious UFO cases in Canadian history, leaving many questions unanswered about what exactly happened to Stefan Michalak on that spring day in 1967. The vanishing of Jessica Reynolds. In the summer of 2015, the small town of Riverview was shaken by the mysterious disappearance of Jessica Reynolds, a 27-year-old nurse known for her kindness and infectious smile. Jessica was well loved in the community, often volunteering at local events and caring deeply for her patients at Riverview General Hospital. Jessica was last seen leaving the hospital after her shift ended at 8 p.m. on a warm July evening. She had plans to meet friends for dinner at a nearby restaurant, but she never arrived. Concerned friends and family members called her repeatedly, but her phone went straight to voicemail. By the next morning, when Jessica still hadn't returned home, her roommate Sarah alerted the authorities. Detective Michael Hayes, a determined investigator with a knack for solving missing persons cases, was assigned to lead the investigation. The initial search focused on Jessica's usual routes home from work and the restaurant where she was supposed to meet her friends. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses showed Jessica leaving the hospital, but there were no signs of her after that. Her car was found parked in its usual spot outside her apartment complex, locked and undisturbed. As days turned into weeks, Detective Hayes and his team tirelessly pursued every lead. They interviewed Jessica's friends, co-workers, and acquaintances, trying to piece together her movements on the night she vanished. They learned that Jessica had recently broken up with her boyfriend, Jason Thompson, after a tumultuous relationship. Jason was known for his possessiveness and had been seen arguing with Jessica in public on several occasions. Jason became a person of interest in the case. Hayes and his team questioned him extensively, but he maintained his innocence, claiming he hadn't seen Jessica since their breakup and had no knowledge of her whereabouts. Without concrete evidence linking him to Jessica's disappearance, the investigation hit a frustrating standstill. Just when hope seemed to dwindle, a breakthrough came from an unlikely source, a local fisherman who discovered a woman's handbag caught in a fishing net downstream from Riverview. The bag was identified as Jessica's, containing her wallet, keys, and cell phone. It had been tossed into the river, seemingly in a hurry. Forensic analysis revealed traces of blood on the bag, matching Jessica's DNA. This grim discovery confirmed investigators' worst fears, that Jessica had met with foul play. The town of Riverview mourned as hope for Jessica's safe return diminished. Months passed, and Detective Hayes refused to give up. He intensified efforts to retrace Jessica's final movements, combing through phone records and revisiting witness statements. One witness, a gas station attendant on the outskirts of town, recalled seeing a distressed woman matching Jessica's description in the company of a man driving a dark SUV on the night of her disappearance. With this new lead, Hayes and his team launched a massive search for the dark SUV, combing through surveillance footage from gas stations and toll booths. They finally identified the vehicle and traced it back to a local mechanic named Greg Dawson. Dawson had no criminal record, but was known for his volatile temper and had a history of conflicts with women. Under intense questioning, Dawson initially denied any involvement in Jessica's disappearance. However, when presented with the evidence linking him to the dark SUV and Jessica's belongings, he broke down and confessed. Dawson admitted that he had encountered Jessica by chance at the gas station and had offered her a ride home. Angered by her rejection and fueled by jealousy over her recent breakup, he had lashed out, resulting in a violent altercation that led to Jessica's accidental death. Dawson led detectives to the remote wooded area where he had hastily buried Jessica's body, hoping to conceal his crime. Her remains were recovered, bringing closure to her grieving loved ones and the community that had rallied behind her. Greg Dawson was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. His trial captivated Riverview as the town grappled with the senseless loss of one of its own. Detective Michael Hayes was hailed as a hero for his unwavering determination and commitment to justice in bringing Jessica Reynolds' killer to account. Though Jessica's bright spirit was tragically extinguished, her memory lived on in the hearts of those who knew and loved her. Her story served as a poignant reminder of the dangers lurking even in the most familiar places, and the resilience of a community united in seeking truth and closure. The case of the vanishing campers, Michigan's mystery in the woods. In the summer of 1997, Michigan's Upper Peninsula was the idyllic setting for a camping trip gone horribly wrong. Three friends, Alex Henderson, Sarah Foster and Michael Reynolds, set out for a weekend of hiking and camping in the dense forest near Lake Superior. What began as a peaceful retreat into nature turned into a baffling disappearance that would haunt investigators for decades. Alex, Sarah, and Michael were seasoned outdoors enthusiasts, familiar with the rugged terrain and well prepared for their adventure. They had mapped out their route and informed friends and family of their plans. However, when they failed to return on Sunday evening as scheduled, concern quickly turned to alarm. Their families reported them missing, prompting an immediate search and rescue operation led by local authorities. Helicopters scanned the dense forest canopy, while ground teams combed through miles of rugged wilderness. The initial search yielded no trace of the missing campers, leaving investigators puzzled and their loved ones desperate for answers. Days turned into weeks, and despite extensive efforts by search teams and volunteers, there was no sign of Alex, Sarah, or Michael. The case attracted national attention, with news outlets speculating on possible scenarios, from a tragic hiking accident to foul play. Detective Mark Thompson of the Michigan State Police took charge of the investigation. Thompson, known for his meticulous approach to missing persons cases, delved into the backgrounds of the missing campers. He discovered that Alex had recently come into a significant inheritance, while Sarah was dealing with personal issues related to her career. Michael, a local mechanic, had no known enemies and was described as a reliable friend. The lack of clues and suspects frustrated Detective Thompson and his team. They expanded their search radius and enlisted the help of cadaver dogs and specialized search teams. Despite their efforts, the vastness of the Michigan wilderness posed a formidable challenge. Months passed without a breakthrough until a group of hunters stumbled upon a makeshift campsite deep in the forest, miles away from the area where the campers were last seen. The campsite contained torn tents, scattered belongings, and remnants of a campfire. Among the items discovered was Sarah's camera, its memory card intact. Upon reviewing the photos on the camera, investigators made a chilling discovery. The last few images showed snapshots of the campers enjoying their hike and setting up camp. However, the final photos appeared blurry and disjointed, as if taken hastily or accidentally. One photo showed a glimpse of a figure in the background, partially obscured by trees. The discovery renewed hope in the investigation, but also raised more questions. Who was the mysterious figure? Where had the campers gone after taking these photos? Detective Thompson intensified efforts to analyze the evidence and retrace the campers' footsteps from the discovered site. Years passed, and the case of the missing campers became a haunting mystery in Michigan's law enforcement circles. Detective Thompson retired, but he never gave up hope of solving the case that had consumed him for so long. In 2015, nearly 2 decades after their disappearance, a hiker exploring a remote area stumbled upon human remains buried under fallen leaves and debris. Dental records confirmed the remains belonged to Alex Henderson, Sarah Foster, and Michael Reynolds. Forensic analysis revealed fractures and injuries consistent with a fall or struggle, suggesting the campers had met with foul play. Despite this discovery, many questions remained unanswered, particularly about the events leading to their deaths and the identity of the elusive figure captured in Sarah's final photos. The case of the vanishing campers remains one of Michigan's enduring mysteries, a tragic reminder of the dangers lurking in the serene beauty of its wilderness and the enduring quest for closure by those left behind. The disappearance of Amber Johnson, Michigan's unsolved mystery. Amber Johnson was a bright and ambitious 19-year-old college student studying psychology at Michigan State University. Her dreams of helping others through counseling were abruptly shattered in the fall of 2008 when she vanished without a trace, leaving behind a community in shock and her family desperate for answers. Amber was known for her outgoing personality and close-knit circle of friends. On the evening of October 25, 2008, she attended a Halloween party with friends in East Lansing, a vibrant college town known for its bustling nightlife and university atmosphere. Witnesses reported that Amber seemed in high spirits, enjoying the festivities and chatting with friends throughout the evening. Around midnight, Amber texted her roommate saying she was planning to leave the party soon and would catch a ride home with a friend. This was the last communication anyone had from her. When Amber failed to return to her apartment that night and didn't show up for classes the following week, her friends and family grew increasingly concerned. Amber's roommate reported her missing, prompting a swift response from local law enforcement. Detective Rachel Carter, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for her tenacity and empathy, was assigned to lead the investigation. Carter immediately launched a thorough search, interviewing witnesses from the party and retracing Amber's movements in the days leading up to her disappearance. Surveillance footage from the area showed Amber leaving the party alone, walking towards a nearby parking lot where her car was parked. However, there were no cameras covering the specific spot where her car was located, leaving a critical gap in the timeline of events. As the investigation progressed, Detective Carter uncovered troubling details about Amber's personal life. She had recently broken up with her boyfriend Jake Williams following a tumultuous relationship marked by arguments and jealousy. Williams, a local bartender, had a history of aggressive behavior and had been seen arguing with Amber on multiple occasions. Williams became a person of interest in the case. Detective Carter questioned him extensively, but he maintained his innocence, claiming he had not seen Amber since their breakup and had no knowledge of her whereabouts. Despite his denial, circumstantial evidence pointed to him as a potential suspect. The investigation hit a frustrating dead end as weeks turned into months without any new leads. Amber's family organized search parties and media campaigns, pleading for information from the public. Tips poured in, but none led to Amber's whereabouts. Years passed, and the case of Amber Johnson's disappearance remained unsolved. Detective Carter continued to revisit the case file, hoping for a breakthrough that would bring closure to Amber's family and justice for her. In 2017, nearly a decade after Amber vanished, a hiker exploring a remote wooded area outside of East Lansing stumbled upon human remains buried under a pile of rocks and debris. Dental records confirmed the remains belonged to Amber Johnson. Forensic analysis revealed fractures and injuries consistent with a violent altercation suggesting foul play. Despite this grim discovery, many questions remained unanswered, particularly about the events leading to Amber's death and the identity of those responsible for her disappearance. The case of Amber Johnson continues to haunt Michigan, a poignant reminder of the dangers faced by young people and the enduring quest for justice by those left behind. Detective Carter retired without solving the case, but she remains hopeful that one day the truth will come to light and Amber's family will find the closure they desperately seek.
Wait, don't go. If you liked this video, please take the like button and throw it at the subscribe button, then stomp on it.